Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Robert. Yeah. Robert is here to present a movie. Okay, don't forget, first of all. Okay. Thank you for coming here. Coming to Portugal to be with us once more. and I will start asking. Anyone saw already the movie?
I thought it was already out here.
Oh my God. Okay, but I hope with our conversation we'll be happy to see the movie afterwards. In your career, do you know this independent American movie from the brother Safdie was one invitation that from them directly, or you were interested in their work before?
Yeah, I'd seen their previous work, and I just thought there was something really special about them. And this movie didn't exist before I met them. It was just I think Josh Safdie was kind of interested in that kind of the story of a kind of low-level street hustler, and that was kind of it. And then we just started talking over 9 months, and good time came out of it.
And I was, to work in completely different conditions, because I think the film was made in not with a lot of money, and you shot in New York, and you shot mostly sometimes with camera cachée without, how was for you that you're used to another kind of productions, how was for you to work in these different conditions?
I mean, I think it's good for me. I mean, I guess when you see the movie, I think it feels the level of authenticity. It kind of, it just looks different to your average New York movie. It doesn't look like the normal kind of New York, and it's because we were just shooting on the run all the time. We were stealing lots of shots, and shooting on. There are just a lot of just normal crowds. We didn't use any extras or anything like that. So everyone else you see who's not a principal actor is just on the street. But
they were passing by.
Yeah, definitely. Don't tell anyone that. Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, it's kind of. I think it's a difficult style of filmmaking to work with. But I think Josh and Benny, they're very confident, and they really know. I mean, they've been making movies for 10 years, and that's their style, and they know how to make it work. And it was great. It was a really fun experience.
And there is a lot of improvisation, or everything, the dialogues and all these are improvised. You had some collaboration on that, or they wrote every line that you were saying?
I mean, every line in the movie is in the final script, but how we kind of got to those lines, it was, I mean, the movie's so short now, but it was, a lot of the scenes were much more extended and much more conversational and loose. And so it kind of feels, it has that sort of improvisational feel to it, but I think pretty much every line from the original script is in the movie.
Everyone in Cannes said that you deserve to have a prize with this film, because you are really very impressive, And did you prepare yourself particularly for this film, working with them before, or it was?
I mean, I do a relatively similar preparation for like every single movie, but with this, it was just a good symbiosis of people and subject matter, and they're just fun people to work with, and it was just, and also the thing with Josh and Benny as well, and Ronnie, the other writer. They were always really open to answering the phone whenever you had a question. They work 24/7, and so when you see that level of commitment from the filmmakers, you do give a high level of commitment because you're never disappointed in them. They'll always discuss things with you. So yeah.
Now I think you should put questions if you want.
What's your big challenge about all the process of acting? If you have some big challenge,
Action
what do you
or
have a
acting?
difficult acting?
What's the biggest challenge? Finding good scripts. That's it. I mean, you can be the best actor in the world, and if you can't find any good material, then no one's going to think you're good. And I think, and also being able to judge a director, because you can't really tell how someone works or how you're going to work with them. I mean, you're just going off an instinct, and so you do a meeting with someone and you might get on as friends and blah, blah, but it's so difficult to tell. It's so difficult to tell if it's going to end up with a good movie at the end. But I mean, yeah, I think it's just really finding good writing.
From all the movies you've ever been on, what was the hardest and most challenging scene you've ever done?
Scene?
Yeah.
Film.
What's the most? I don't know. I mean, probably the scenes. Tons. Tons. No, I find all of them almost impossible.
The next one. No?
Yeah, it's always. I don't know. Yeah, the ones. There's plenty of scenes where, you just don't get it. For whatever reason, it just doesn't happen on the day, and it's the worst feeling ever. But the good thing about filmmaking, I mean, you have to do another one the next day, so you can't keep dwelling on it until you see the movie, and then you want to kill yourself. To be in something which you're directing yourself?
Yes.
I couldn't imagine doing that, to be honest. I think that would be so difficult. I rely quite a lot, if you're acting, to you only feel safe if someone else can take the blame if it's bad. I kind of rely on that quite a lot. So I think you have to choose one or the other. You can either be an actor and blame it on the director, or be a director and blame it on the actors. Like, you can't, if you're doing both, then you're screwed.
Hi, Robert. My question for you is, what type of movies do you enjoy working on the most? Small independent movies or big studio ones?
I mean, they both have their benefits. It's just you kind of in small independence you can be. I mean, if you go really, really small, then there's just no expectations from anyone. There's no expectations from the financiers. I mean, well, there's a little expectation, but there's not. If you end up spending $50 million on a movie, I mean, there's a lot of people who when the footage is coming in, they're expecting certain things. Whereas if you go smaller and smaller, then you can just be a little bit more free. But then sometimes when you're doing something big, it's nice to have that. It's nice to know that there's an audience waiting for it, and that pressure is sometimes a good thing. I mean, it creates different environments. But yeah, both definitely have their positives and negatives.
Hi. First of all, congratulations to you and everyone involved in Good Time. This is going to be my second time watching the movie.
Oh, nice.
And I believe it's the best movie to come out in 2017 and one of your best performances.
Ah, thank you.
So my question is regarding your experience working with the Safdie brothers on Good Time. It was a long process. You first talked to them in 2015, and you talked to them even while shooting the Lost Island of Z, and sometimes even in character. And what I want to ask you is, how did that translate in your work in Good Time? So the Safdie brothers have that very unique and very own style of filmmaking. How did that translate to you, to your work and your character in Good Time? Thank you.
Well, thanks for that. I don't know. I mean, I kind of just realized over the last few years that, you know, if you work with, when you start choosing directors to work with, it's much easier to just completely give yourself up to them and trust in them. Whereas if if you're just auditioning, which I was doing, you know, for my whole career up until like 5 years ago, if you audition for everything and then you get your job, there's an element of you which is kind of fighting for control. But then as soon as you can just completely you can just completely let go of the steering wheel a little bit. And I was kind of realizing it more and more and more from this movie I did called The Rover, and then I did over Lost City of Z. It was kind of, these are all directors who I wanted to work with for like 10 years. And so by the time I did Good Time, my whole attitude towards filmmaking was totally different. And also, they're just really good, the Safdies, and you realize immediately, and so you want to be. I really realized on this and on the last few things, I wanted to be part of their world rather than, I didn't want anything to do with whatever. I didn't want to be in my world. I didn't really care what my opinion of anything was. I mean, you could just sort of surrender to it. But yeah, I think by the time Good Time came, I think I'd kind of done that on like 5 movies, and so I felt it was easier to get into that mindset.
Hi, Rob. My question is, how difficult is for you to become such a powerful celebrity, and is it worth the price you have to pay, like losing your freedom? And what passions you to keep on going this journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of you just kind of you get used to everything. I mean, you just kind of like, I don't know. It's like it doesn't really matter one way or the other. I mean, if you can make it, if it helps you to get more jobs, and that's kind of it, really. I mean, when I was younger, it's a little bit harder to deal with when your life kind of changes, but then you just deal with it. I mean, there are difficult things, but there's difficult things in everyone's life. I mean, it's like you kind of. I think as you get older, you're just like, I only go to 3 places anyway. I mean, it's like, what's the difference?
So my question is, how much were you involved with the writing? Is there anything that you add to the script that you're kind of proud of? And yeah, that's it.
I don't know. I mean, they're like phenomenal writers. I mean, and they write so fast. But I don't know if I added anything particularly to the script. I mean, I know that I think we were just talking about it so much, and I was just talking to Josh for months and months and months about kind of how I sort of what my sort of ideal part would be, and kind of what I was thinking at the time. And I guess in some ways that kind of seeped through, but at the same time me and Josh were just sort of thinking along the same lines anyway. But they were just, it's funny because I think they write such good dialogue, and to my ear it sounds really real and very specific, but then they'll throw it away all the time and just think, they'll write a scene and say, yeah, make it your own. And so all these other actors were, they'd make it their own, but I just really liked exactly the way he was writing. And also I just kept kind of thinking that I was sort of, like, Connie is sort of a version of, like, actually I shouldn't say this, but it's kind of like a version of me and Josh and the psychopath. But like, so I don't really, I mean, it's just, actually it's not really, I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, I don't know what I added to it, to be honest, but I just know that, I think the movie, I don't know how many people have seen it, but I mean, it's kind of the humor in it. I just think some of the lines, it's sort of crazy. And I remember reading it the first time, and it just has this very strange tone, but it can go from being extremely serious to, you know, just suddenly take this left turn out of nowhere. And I just remember reading every draft of the script. It was always just, they're just really good at making things surprising.
Hello, Robert. Thank you so much for coming to Portugal. I thought you were amazing in the movie. It's my 4th time watching it. Yeah, it's kind of insane, but I really love the movie. Also, I'm very much crazy. My question is regarding your performance in a film. Shooting usually takes about weeks, months, but the entire film is pretty much just one day. How do you bring that kind of experience to acting? Pretending not, but acting like the entire process of shooting throughout months is just happening in one day in the film.
I mean, it was like, I think we shot for 6 weeks or something, and I mean, I think because we were shooting so quickly. I mean, there was not enough. There's never enough time to shoot a movie, but it was kind of. This was pretty breakneck, and also just all these guys they run at very, very high intensity, and it kind of rubs off on you. Like once in the Safdie's world, it definitely is this kind of slightly they're just running at quite high velocity, and also on the first day. We were shooting my first scene or something in a mental hospital in I think it was in Queens. I can't remember, somewhere in New York. And I was kind of psyching myself up to do the first scene. I didn't really know how to play the part at that point, and then the power kept going out every 10 minutes, and so I ended up just like, you know, you're winding yourself up, and it ended up just like 2 hours of kind of psyching yourself up, and then and so after that moment I kind of realized, oh well, I'm just gonna have to do that every day now, and so and just very, very little sleep and lots of adrenaline.
Hi, Robert. My question is, I don't know if it's kind of uncomfortable for you to talk about it, but I wanted to ask you if you could explain further on the whole dog situation on the shooting of the movie. That's it. Stay united.
People heard about that in Portugal. That's crazy.
We did.
I don't know. I literally, now that I've got away with it, sort of, like I actually, it's amazing I actually framed the. Did I ever tell you about this? There's basically an article on this website TMZ, which to have Pattinson and dog sex scandal. I framed it. It's on the wall of my house. That's it. So it looks like a piece of postmodern art.
What is your most fancy character you play in the film?
Challenging. My challenging character. I mean, to be honest, probably Edward in Twilight, just because I had to do it 5 times. So I mean, it's just. I mean, it's kind of to repeat anything in 5 movies. I mean, you've got to keep trying to make yourself interested in it and find something else. And it was like I was probably by the last one you just. It's difficult because also if you take away the parameters of a character, if a character can't die, basically, then it's difficult to think what their emotional spectrum is. But yeah, probably that.
What can you teach us in the acting area? What do you think, like for the ones who want to follow that? What do you think? This is a tough one, I know.
Yeah.
Probably you have some advice.
I mean, I think just watch. I mean, what I found the most satisfying thing is really to educate yourself in film and watch a lot of films, don't just watch the films which are coming out right now. Like find out really what your taste is, and then it just makes it much more fulfilling. If you're only watching movies that are coming out on like every weekend, then I don't know. I mean, I think it's the same thing. I think it's one of the easiest things to study because it's really enjoyable just to watch movies all the time. But yeah, I think that would be going to the theater and watching tons of movies and trying to figure out what your taste is and also just kind of it's studying yourself really, and it's kind of how you feel about things, and also just acting all the time. You just have to keep doing it all the time, and you teach yourself how to do it really.
What drew you in the last few years to more independent films and to work with directors like James Gray, David Cronenberg, and now the Safdie brothers? And what can you tell us about the award buzz that's already surrounding Good Time, that's already nominated to the Independent Spirit Awards? And how was the experience of shooting this special film that you really wanted to do with the Safdie brothers?
I mean, people like James Gray and Cronenberg and so. I mean, well, Cronenberg came completely out of the blue, but James was one of my favorite directors when I first started acting. Well, I mean, since I was a teenager, so I was trying to work with him for years and years, and I think I was attached to the movie for like 7 years or something before it happened. It was just after the first Twilight I signed up with James, and then. So it's kind of just like some things just take ages to come into fruition. It's not like I really chose to do something independent or like purely independent films. I think you just try and find things that you find interesting, really. And then with the Safdies, it's just one of the you're just guessing the whole time. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, if some massive movie with a studio came up, then I'd be like, yeah, but it's quite rare. I mean, it's rare, and I also, just having had that experience, it's quite stressful to if you want to kind of, I don't know, just be free with something, it's difficult when there's lots and lots of money involved. And in terms of the awards and stuff, I mean, it's great. I mean, this is such, like, I love this movie, and it kind of to have made it on such a kind of it was like and it didn't really seem like a gamble. It was only a gamble in other people's eyes, really. I mean, I kind of knew right from the beginning what exactly that I knew it was turn out to be something, but to get into Cannes and for people to be still remembering it now. I mean, it came out in the summer. I mean, and there's so many movies that have come out since then. It's just great. It's a great feeling, and it's kind of. I'm happy for the Safdies as well. I mean, I think they're just such genuinely talented guys, and it's great. Stress is useful if you know how to kind of harness it. I mean, I find it much more stressful to just be sitting around doing nothing. I think when you work, you can use it. You can use it for it's probably one of your biggest creative sources. That kind of being stressed and then the relief of getting rid of the stress. But yeah, it's weird. Over the years, I just sort of realized how much I sort of enjoy stress, and I never really thought about it before. And once you realize like most of the stress you're creating it yourself. Once you realize that, it's like, oh, I can actually use this for something. It's kind of a productive thing.
One last
Other than that, getting wasted.
Hello, good night. Right here. I'm also from Brazil. And my question is, I wanted to throw it back a little bit to Little Ashes. So when you do a part, you take a little bit of the character with you, right? And I want to know how was for you to play one of the greatest minds that ever existed, and what did it change in your life learning about Salvador Dali and what challenges that you have to overcome to play that part?
I mean, I remember researching. I mean, I don't know if you ever read Dali's autobiographies, and I didn't really know that much about him before I started doing the movie, apart from his paintings. And like, I started reading those autobiographies, and to write these incredibly earnest and detailed autobiographies, all three of which totally contradict each other. Like, I just thought that was like absolutely fascinating, and contradict each other to the point where he's like saying that in one of them he's saying he has this idyllic childhood, and blah, 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 and another one he's saying his mother was sexually abusing him his whole life, and I was like, and to see someone who has such a strange relationship with their own identity, like I thought that was, and how they can play with it, and they don't mind kind of throwing parts away and molding other bits and being so conscious of it. I thought that was kind of interesting, and I guess that kind of stuck with me afterwards. But he is a really fascinating guy. I met so many people who met him in Barcelona or knew him well, and it was kind of, it was the first time I started properly researching parts as well, and it was, yeah, that was a massive movie for me. So what was the other part of the question?
Okay.
Change. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that.
I
Yeah,
guess that was it actually.
They always change a bit. I mean, like everything kind of, it just becomes part of you for the, like, yeah, I think everything. You spend 3 months or like 6 months doing anything, and it's just you afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Enjoyed the movie, and Robert promised me that will be here with us next year.